Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, here alongside Mike Gallagher, and we're here to take you through this 7-game slate. Not a ton of injuries today. Some of the same normal ones that have been frustrating for a while. We did just get a Bucks injury report update at 1:30, which is very useful for the context of this slate. Mike, you are fresh off of seeing Steph go Steph for a half, and then the Clippers go absolutely Steph for a second half. So how are you doing on this fine Tuesday?
Yeah, man up. I went for Steph, and I got Terrence Mann show, which is my guy. So yeah, killed him. Steve Kerr said he lost his voice, basically because Terrence Mann was so good. So if he's a lozenges guy or whatever, like Terrence Mann is helping out their business with Steve Kerr making some purchases today.
Yeah, it was quite the effort. I was actually at halftime thinking about live betting some alt lines on the Clippers, like some big lines, and I just didn't do it. I didn't pull the trigger on it. I was kind of upset with myself, but Clippers are playing really well right now.
Yeah.
For those of you who are interested in more takes on the Clippers, we did a podcast when was that? Was that last week?
Monday, yeah.
Last podcast?
8 days ago.
Yeah, we did that with Tomer Azarli from Clutch Points to talk Clippers and had him on. He was great. Talked a lot about that Norm Powell trade. And honestly, man, if they could get back Paul George, even just Paul George, they're pretty dangerous. They just have so much wing defenders. But let's get back to injury stuff for today. We don't have a ton to go through. We'll start with the Bucks news, which is the big starting point. Giannis is going to be back tonight. They are up to 14-point favorites. He's listed as probable. It's a different probable tag than the front end of the back-to-back probable after he sat. Those are skeptical, but this one feels pretty good. They also have ruled out Wes Matthews on the second night of back-to-back, and George Hill, who's been out as well. We saw last night really heavy minutes from Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis, and shockingly Serge Ibaka. Ibaka got up to 31 minutes. Going through the projections as I just was on them, they also don't have Greg Monroe. He's no longer on the roster. His 10 days up. They're rumored to be signing DeAndre Bembry, who, if they would, he would not be available tonight. So the roster is like sneaky thin in this spot. They are 14-point favorites, so there could be some blowout stuff here. But my first question to you, Mike, is Giannis back. That you assume that slides Ibaka right back to the bench, right? And then what do you think they're doing with Ibaka from a minutes perspective? Because if they don't play him into the 20s, they have to play like Lindell Wigginton or Thanasis or Jordan Nwora, like pretty decent minutes. Thanasis and Mama Kalashvili did not get into the game until blowout time last night. Do you think Ibaka is going to have like a normal, like low 20s minute type of role in this Bucks rotation with Giannis in?
Well, Budenholzer said after the game that he played him too much, which he did. You're not supposed to play Serge 31 minutes. So, yeah, I think you put 22. I think that's a good number. I think it's more pretty much similar probability of playing, 25 to like 17 with Giannis back. And, yeah, I mean, the Giannis sitting thing, add to the fact that Monroe could play yesterday and he can't play today, it just naturally made sense to sit him out yesterday. So, maybe they sign him to another 10-day. We'll see, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So, yeah, maybe see a little more Thanasis out there, see a little bit more maybe Sandro getting the non-Portis minutes. Serge was fine as a 4, if you think about, Portis being the center, which he kind of isn't. But anyways, and yeah, he liked his minutes. So definitely think Serge is getting, a solid role. I don't think he gets anything over 25 with Giannis, basically. Defensively serving a similar role. Obviously, offensively, it's a little bit different. But yeah, Serge has certainly carved out a role for himself with Giannis back. Just not a massive one like last night.
We did see without Giannis, both Middleton and Holiday started to play heavier minutes, which is normal. But Grayson Allen also got up to 32 and a half or so, sat the final like 1.5 to 2 minutes. So it was on a pace to play like 34, 35. It's hard to say if that'll be the case with Giannis in. I think I have him around 32 right now, but it sounds like low 30s. It seems like low 30s is probably very, very likely, even when they're fully healthy, just because of kind of the depth issues on the wings. Now, if they sign DeAndre Bembry, that might mix things up a little bit, depending on how much Budenholzer really likes to use Bembry. But I think Grayson Allen's minutes are really, really secure with the absence of Pat Connaughton right now. And tonight they won't have Wesley Matthews or George Hill as well, which would be the other two guys that could potentially cut into those minutes too.
Yeah, Wesley Matthews subbed in for Middleton when he got foul trouble yesterday. So, yeah, losing that piece, you're going to have to address the depth behind him there. So, yeah, Grayson's minutes should be really, really good. And Drew played, kind of just okay. And Simons didn't get switched. They had a one-on-one matchup, and Simons is, man, Matt, I didn't watch the whole game, but just hearing the comments after, just a side note, man, Simons is a freaking baller.
Yeah, Simons has been great all season long, making kind of a late run at most improved player in the league, which he won't win because it'll be too late of a run. But he's been exceptional. And certainly you look, I mean, man, you look at him, you look at Josh Hart, who played really, really well last night, and you think about adding Dame to this and all the cap space and the picks that they have, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, maybe I do see the path for the Blazers, even though you looked at the trades at the deadline and thought like, oh man, that Rocco the Rocco Powell deal felt like just trying to get clear salary, which if they have a target in mind, then it ends up all working out. But the McCollum Hart deal, Hart's not that much worse of a player than CJ McCollum in terms of winning basketball games. If he is a worse player, I think that's questionable even. So it'll be very interesting to see Josh Hart take more of an offensive role because he's been on teams where he's just been the glue guy. And so, I think it'll be really interesting to talk about Portland kind of going forward.
Yeah, super quick. They won him handling the ball. He guarded Middleton. Yeah, just like total baller game.
Yeah. All right. Other injuries on this slate. There's a bunch of big questionables to keep an eye out on. The first one, I want to talk about Brogdon first, just because I feel like we're always talking about Brogdon. But they, Tyrese Haliburton just played loads of minutes, tons of ball handling role without Brogdon. Brogdon's questionable tonight. Duarte is out. So from an Indiana, guard perspective, they're a little bit thin. A huge blowout risk here once again for Indiana. What are your thoughts on if we see Brogdon? And then also, do you think the ball is in Tyrese's hands all the time when they're playing together, or do you think Brogdon will be, on ball? Who do you think both of those guys have played off and on ball during their career? So who do you think gets the priority when Brogdon is healthy?
I mean, based on Carlisle's quotes, it's Haliburton. He said that he wants Haliburton to run the team and wants him to learn the plays and eventually call them. He said he doesn't like calling the plays right now, but once Haliburton, learns it, he'll be running the show. So, that's their dude. Obviously, it is a back-to-back, so I would lean out on Brogdon, but so annoying. They don't have Isaiah Jackson, and just without Duarte, he wasn't asked directly about it, but he kept answering about Dwayne Washington unprompted. So that leads me to believe that they may like Buddy Hield. Maybe not want to run him up too much, but I would expect him to get pretty good minutes either way. But I think no Duarte would up Washington a little bit more going into this one. But
the tough thing obviously is we saw last game Duarte played 4 minutes and Washington only played 11. Lance Stevenson got the bulk, played 32. Lance was plus 10 in those 32 minutes, so played really well. I do think just from a roster perspective, it would make a lot more sense to slide Dwayne Washington, who's more perimeter shooting and less ball handling, into the starting lineup and let Lance kind of run the second unit and just see where things go from there. But Lance was the guy who benefited last game. Jalen Smith had a big game last game. They're playing fast and they're not playing a lot of defense, so there could be a lot more big fantasy efforts in these Pacers games, and tonight is certainly one. I mean, the Milwaukee plays very, very fast. They struggled quite a bit defensively last night, but I think a lot of that has to do with the absence of Giannis largely. So it's a spot that we'll have to monitor just because there is a lot of potential opportunity here, as you saw with, even though it is front end of back-to-back and blowout risk. But when you see 40s on guys, just even in normal games, your ears perk up in terms of upside as GPP players, just because if the game can stay competitive, the minutes are certainly there.
And I'll add just on Jalen Smith really quick. Yeah, Carlos seems pretty sold. He said he was, quote, aggressive, effective, and a good feel for where his shots were. So we've seen Goga's minutes be down a little bit. Obviously, Isaiah Jackson's not playing today, so that kind of covers most of your center minutes right there.
Also of note is just the fact that nobody who's coached Goga seems to have enjoyed coaching Goga. He's had run-ins with every coach that they've had there pretty much. So that's a wide open opportunity for Jalen Smith to make an impression and take a lot of playing time there. So we'll see how that goes. But, I've been skeptical on Goga taking on a big role just because he doesn't seem to, be in favor of the coaches, in the coach's favor, I should say. Yep. Other big Q tags on the slate, John Morant is a really big one. Obviously, the Grizzlies have been playing without Dillon Brooks for quite a while. We've seen them play without John Morant earlier in the season. And in those cases, Tyus Jones is a really effective source of value. He slides into the starting lineup, gets a lot of ball handling opportunities. But we've also seen Desmond Bane and DeAnthony Melton benefit in those situations as well. What do you think the likelihood of seeing John Morant play tonight? And if not, how do you think the rotation shakes out?
I think it's pretty good. He kind of stepped on a cameraman. Jenkins said after the game he was kind of a little upset about that. And, we see that. And this is his kind of bad ankle, the ankle he rolled last year, and he missed about 3 weeks with it. Obviously, he was out early this season for a knee. But that's always a little concerning, right? Like De'Aaron Fox, he had a pretty bad ankle injury a couple years ago. We saw how much time he missed for that. So if it wasn't the same ankle, I pretty much would just brush it off. But back-to-back as well, definitely a chance. As you mentioned, Tyus and Bane would certainly benefit. We'll see how his effectiveness can be affected here in this game in what should be a pretty good matchup. Although I would expect him to see Herb a lot. Could talk more about that on the DFS show.
Yeah, and then on the opposite side of that game, I didn't see a Pelicans file yet. Did they file at the 1:30?
Maybe I missed it. There they are. Nope, they get it. They're clean.
Okay, they're clean. So that's good to know on the second end of a back-to-back for them. Other injury situations, Boston, Marcus Smart and Robert Williams both listed questionable for their matchup with Philadelphia tonight. I find the timing of Robert Williams' questionable tag just a little bit suspect because they made a big deal today about how they have Daniel Tice available. And so it just feels like maybe it's a spot where Time Lord's been playing so much of late. Where it's a spot where if he's banged up at all going up against Embiid, which is just such a physical task to guard Embiid, it might be the night to kind of take a back seat and let Horford and Tice handle that spot. Just speculation on my part on that questionable tag that the timing happens to coincide with Tice's acquisition and Tice being cleared and all these different things. But what are your thoughts on Smart and Time Lord's availability tonight?
Yeah, calves and hamstrings always frighten me, right? So, again, Time Lord, they do not want him to play injured at all. Just my initial impression was like, you look at the schedule, they play Detroit tomorrow. Like, you're playing the Sixers, and I'll add to, it'll be mostly Horford probably guarding Embiid. They kind of let Robert Williams kind of roam a little bit when they play up against those big traditional centers. But, just sit him out tomorrow. So I definitely think he could sit. And you mentioned the Seal, aka Daniel Tice, could pick up some minutes, but we'll see. Probably going to be game time. Luckily, first game of the slate, so we should know. Maybe it doesn't have that big upside. It's listed with tightness, which is an injury that sometimes guys can play through.
If Smart wasn't able to go, do you think Derek White slides right into that starting spot, or do you think Peyton Pritchard slides into the starting spot for continuity purposes, and White kind of comes off the bench as the scoring punch off the bench?
I think it should be White. You have confidence to close with him in Horford's spot in the last game. You would assume he has confidence to start. They want to get chemistry with him playing with some of those guys. So I'd be pretty surprised if it's not White out there starting.
Okay. Other injuries to keep an eye on. Atlanta has Bogdanovic, who's questionable. He seemingly has been questionable throughout most of the year, along with DeLon Wright. Backcourt guard depth is, in a spot to kind of keep an eye on here just because it's two injuries to both backcourt guards and things could tighten up considerably. They still have Lou Williams, still have Kevin Huerter, but they have been kind of condensing those minutes of late with no John Collins because they've had to slide guys up. Gallinari is playing pure 4, DeAndre Hunter playing mostly 4 with a little bit of 3, and that kind of slides up Bogdan to a 3. And so you start to lose minutes if you lose both of these guys. What are your thoughts on their likelihood of availability tonight? It seems like Bogdan is just like questionable all the time. They get him onto some sort of minutes limitation, and then he gets off the questionable tag. They play him a ton, and then he goes right back to it. It just seems like it's the same case with him over and over again this season.
Yeah, not the same ankle as last year, which is good. Back to back, right? So it makes you think that he's going to sit one of these two games. As we talked about yesterday, get to the break kind of healthy is the way you got to think through. So I think there's a chance. Again, first game of the day, so we'll know. if he doesn't go. DeLon Wright should be okay. Played in the last one. This was an injury he suffered 2 games ago. So I would be pretty surprised if he sat. But, back to back, maybe he sits out. Lou Williams, we saw him 2 games ago. He was kind of a DNP CD, but after the game, Nate McMillan said that he just wanted to sit him out one more game. So it was because of the injury, although Nate McMillan, not exactly the truth-telling guy that we like the most for whatever that's worth. But, obviously Herter would play more. Hunter would play a little bit more. Trey would have a little bit longer leash as well.
And then who do you think is the next guy off the bench in the instance that Bogdanovic doesn't play? You think it's Luwawu Cabarrot that gets into the rotation over Kevin Knox, or do you think Kevin Knox has the edge?
I think it might be Knox. I think they want to try to get a look at him. There were some quotes a couple weeks ago about wanting to look at him, and I just don't see any reason to, and you'd rather have at least somebody that can do at least. I mean, they're both pretty bad, honestly, but I think Knox makes a little more sense for a fit perspective.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler is questionable for the Heat. They're without Tyler Hero tonight, so it could be one of these situations again where we get down to 2 of the big 4 out for Miami from a usage perspective, which really kind of opens up the value for Bam Adebayo and Kyle Lowry. Caleb Martin is also questionable on the injury report, and we've talked about the Heat that they're just in a position of a lot of depth and resources now where they can kind of let guys rest, and they have enough depth, and they've played really well. It's not the greatest matchup tonight with Dallas, but what are your thoughts on whether we see Jimmy fresh off the Super Bowl ad on your TV screens tonight competing on the basketball court?
I don't know. It's a new injury, right? We saw that toe thing pop up. Now he's got listed with a shoulder strain. I think they're off tomorrow, so it's not a back-to-back. That helps. Pretty big matchup here. So I think he's got a pretty good shot to play. Caleb Martin's been playing through this left Achilles soreness thing. That his twin, has been banged up with as well, same injury. But I think Jimmy's got a pretty good shot to play. But Bam's been freaking insane. Bam's just doing everything on both ends of the court right now. Part of the reason why Miami's been so good.
Question from the chat: are teams required to disclose if a player will be limited heading into a game?
No.
Yeah.
I wish they were. That'd be really easy. Yeah. It'd be easy for us. But,
it'd be great if they could just tell us how many minutes everybody was going to
play. Yeah.
But no, they don't. They will, a lot of times the beat reporters will ask if a player is limited, and sometimes the coaches will give those indications because the coaches don't want to have to get the questions after the game. Why didn't you play so-and-so so much? Yep. Or whatever. So that's usually how that comes out. It's largely out of frustration and not wanting to answer the question later, not so much out of the goodness of their heart in terms of sharing game planning and information.
Yeah, some coaches are great. Budenholzer's terrible. Brad Stevens was always awesome. He would always say like, "Oh, we're playing this much," and they would. Yeah. So we usually shout out Underdog. They definitely know how to parse through the BS. Fan's been pretty much in the business as long as me. And I was talking this with Winky yesterday when we were driving to the game. Just talk about just IDing who's credible and who's not. And it's a lot of nuance. So shout out to Underdog.
For sure. Across the court with Miami, Reggie Bullock is doubtful for the Cavs or for the Mavs, and he's been playing a lot. Been playing a really big role of late, and they don't have a ton of depth to fill things out with him. I mean, they've got Sterling Brown, they've got Frank Ntilikina, they've got Davis Bertans in terms of guys who could potentially step up here. I gave similar minutes to all of those guys. I think I have each of them around 12 to 14, kind of filling some of the vast majority of the role by Bullock. I think it increases the ceiling on Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell as well in this spot. We've seen Dallas be willing to play super tight of late, like Luka and Jalen Brunson in the upper 30s. They should have Dinwiddie tonight, we think. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't, but he did not play last game. So what do you think things look like without Reggie Bullock here, who, as you see on the screen in the last game, played 40 minutes? It's a big hole to fill.
Yeah, really tough role to replace, right? Because they really don't have, besides Dorian Finney-Smith, a guy that can space the floor and be an on-ball defender quite like him, with the way they want to use him. I think the first guy I look to is Maxi Kleber, but if you play him at the 4, you're basically really, really asking a lot out of Dwight Powell. Maybe you played Bertans a little bit, so I think that's one way it can go. But I just don't think that like Sterling Brown's more of secondary ball handling. He's kind of okay in that role too, but just defensively, I don't think he's really up to the task there. Josh Green also a little bit undersized for how they want to use him. So I'm looking at your minutes right now, and I'm pretty much with you. I think maybe I think Cleveland may play a lot. Is my
that's the thing. It's hard to project it, but
sure.
That's the takeaway for me here is I would expect Kleber to move into that starting lineup, and I think Kleber and Powell could play a lot.
Yeah,
Powell has shown some ceilings of getting up to like 34. Very hard to project because the floors have been like low 20s. So, but these guys, if we're wrong on we're giving double-digit minutes to 3 other guys to kind of fill this role.
Yeah.
If we're wrong and it's only 2 guys and the other double-digit minutes are dispersed to the other starters, Dorian Finney-Smith can't really play much more than he is. Luka can't really play too much more than he is. Brunson could, but I think Dinwiddie's going to cut into that some. So it looks to me like Kleber and Powell are the guys who could have a really big ceiling.
Yeah.
They could also just play Davis Bertans like 18 to 20 minutes. The Heat will run out guys out there who are basically Davis Bertans clones, just better at getting around screens than Bertans, but just guys who spread the floor in space. So it's a tough spot. And Sterling Brown is DMPCD last game, so there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of room for him in the rotation. And Trey Burke is also questionable here. I can't imagine Burke is in the rotation with Dinwiddie around, so. I could see a path to a lot of Kleber and Powell minutes. It's just hard to project it right now without being very, very aggressive.
Yeah, and we'll see if how far Frank Ntilikina gets cut down. May probably want to go more Brown and Ntilikina, right? Just because Dinwiddie's coming in there to take away any of those ball handling chances. We've seen like some overlap with him and Luka, but I mean, you're not going to play like 3 of those guys together. I feel like with Luka, Dinwiddie / Brunson, and
this is why like the Dinwiddie acquisition was strange to me, alongside all the rumors of Dragic, which Dragic got bought out today. I cannot imagine Dragic ends up in Dallas. It makes no sense whatsoever from his perspective. Like, he could he's going to prioritize a place that he can either get playing time to try to get another contract or try to win a title. And I don't think Dallas is at the top of the list on either of those. So I've been very confused by the ties to Dallas there. But I think the only other note is the Clippers haven't filed. They probably won't file until 4:30 Eastern would be my guess.
I don't think anybody. I didn't see anybody do anything on the bench or they.
Kennard is a big question.
Kennard. Well, he got ruled out early. I think it was back-to-back related. He was playing through that too. So
he was unable to play last night. But here's the thing, man. If I was working on their minutes, if you don't have Kennard in, they were willing to play stupid tight yesterday. Reggie played 37.5, Terrence Mann played 39, and they sat out the final 4 minutes of that game. So because of blowout. So man, there's a lot of playing time available there if they don't have Kennard, because they did not give Brandon Boston or Rodney Hood or Semi Ojeleye any substantial role at all. They just condensed it all. In Marcus Morris, they have the front court guys, but they don't have as much confidence in the backcourt guys. So and Amir Coffey got up to 23, but he played all of the fourth basically to get there. He did not play a lot in the first half.
I did not. I was looking for warm-ups. I was looking for Merck. I was actually on warm-up watch. We got there pretty early. I didn't see Kennard warming up, so that'll make you think that he's may just sit out and get ready for the All-Star.
Yeah, that's how I've got it projected now, just because we don't have any information. We'll see when we get something filed from them. If it's a questionable tag, I'll probably move him back in just to loosen things up. But the Clippers could end up being really tight, and that's frustrating because we've seen the Clippers just really wide range on minutes, right? Reggie Jackson just 10 days ago played 21 in 3 straight games, and now is playing 40 a night. So the challenges of trying to project and predict what Ty Lue will do.
Yeah, and I'll add just quickly. Robert Covington's he was playing garbage time. That was kind of crazy to me to see him out there in that time. You see the 27 minutes, very, very misleading. Hate to see it. And side note, man, Robert Covington's a good dude, man. So there was a marriage proposal. They had this little game and they were answering questions and it said, "Will you marry me?" Right? Yeah. And Robert Covington was going crazy. He was clapping, and there was another thing where someone Jordan Poole threw a heave. And Robert Covington gets off the bench, sprints across to the other side of the court, and catches the ball so it doesn't go in the stands. Dude, you're the man. So shout out to Rocco.
Notes from the sidelines.
This is the important stuff while you guys tune in.
Yeah.
But love Rocco.
All right. I think we've actually said it all now. So with that said, if you are behind the paywall with us at Established Run, the DFS Premium Show tonight will be at 5:30 Eastern Time. with myself and Mike Gallagher. 7:30 Eastern time lock tonight. We'll be covering all the DFS angles for the 7-game slate, and hopefully we'll have a few more insights into the injury situations there. You can join us for the rest of the season for reduced price rates that we have. And remember, when you're thinking about the rest of the season, I know we talk all the time about how we're like 2/3 of the way through the NBA season. The rest of the season packages for established run products go through the playoffs. So that's an extra 2 months of basketball that you get all the analysis and projections on, and player props if you're doing that package as well. So be sure to join us over there at establishedrun.com. Check out the subscribe page for more details and information there. If you're not interested in paying for content on the internet, at least pay us in likes. You can hit or smash the like button, help us continue to circulate this content, get more eyeballs on it, and continue to produce this free content that we're doing for you guys each and every Monday through Friday. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That also helps us drive interest and helps our videos get circulated more strongly in the YouTube algorithm. So thank you for helping us try to beat these algorithms, beat the computers. That's all we're trying to do here over at Established Run. We want to wish you best of luck in the games tonight. Join us behind the paywall this evening at 5:30 for me and Mike breaking down the NBA slate. And we'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern. Take care, everybody.